Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. Thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the show, would appreciate if you subscribe, like the videos, and would love to hear your comments down below. We are at the start of the 2029 season. Been a very eventful off-season for the Yankees, as you know from our last episode. Made several major trades, got rid of both star players like Ke'Bryan Hayes, as well as some of the top prospects in baseball. Part of that was in an effort to cut payroll below $190 million, which we have achieved. So hopefully ownership will be happy with that. But ownership being ownership, never truly satisfied. And their goal for us this season, which they just shared with us recently, is to win it all. So no pressure. Cut the payroll, win it all. That's life as the GM of the New York Yankees. We have won the AL East 5 straight years, but only have one World Series title in that time period. So hopefully we can change that. Do have one correction to make from the last episode. At the end of the last episode, I was complaining about manager Scott Leyes running with a 6-man rotation. He had already made me angry because he is not platooning Ryan Mountcastle and Blake Casson at first base. Was hoping that he would play Klassen against right-handed batters and the newly acquired Mountcastle against left-handed batters, but he's just given the job to Mountcastle. I wasn't happy with that, still not happy with that. I also was complaining about him putting together a 6-man rotation, but that was actually just because I had not left spring training yet. So he does have a more normal 5-man rotation. So apologies, Scott Leyes, for getting on you for the wacky 6-man rotation I thought you were bringing into the regular season. Despite the fact that I think we might be a weaker team on paper, OOTP 22 doesn't think that. They are predicting us to go 109-53, scoring the most runs in baseball while allowing the fewest runs in baseball. So that is the type of pressure that the team is up against this year. We are certainly still built to win, even though after cutting our payroll, we now are 10th in the majors in player payroll, which is certainly not an area that the Yankees would typically be. As we've talked about in previous episodes, ever since the Steinbrenners sold the team, our new ownership has at times been very focused on cutting payroll and profitability, and we are trying to play ball with them on that front this season while also being very competitive, or as competitive as possible. Player development still in pretty good shape, have the 8th ranked minor league system, and you can see we still have 3 top 50 prospects. Feeling a little better about the trade away of Ke'Bryan Hayes that we made as we think more and more about Jose Montoya, who's the top prospect in our system. Certainly has the potential to become a plus hitter. He's been a shortstop historically, but if you look closely, you could see that we are now training him up at third base at AAA. He's very adaptable, has a good, strong work ethic, and with us having Bogarts handling third base this season after we traded away Ke'Bryan Hayes, we are going to have an opening at third next year. And Montoya very well may be the solution that we look to handle third. It's possible, that we also get Montoya to be proficient at second base and he could become a second baseman for us too. But at least for the next several years, he's a bit blocked at shortstop by Bo Bichette, who still has a great bat at the age of 31 and is also a premier fielder. So hopefully we can make the prospect a little more marketable, and if we can bring him up next year, Montoya, to play third for us, we'll feel even better about letting Ke'Bryan Hayes go. It could be short-term pain for long-term gain for us from that perspective, and we did have to retain 10% of his salary for the Mets, so we will be paying Ke'Bryan for the next several seasons. With that as an intro, we are going to hop right into starting to sim the season. We'll report back each month, let you know how things are going, and more frequently than monthly if something really interesting is happening with the team. Well, we're not even a week into the season, and some devastating news for the Yankees. Even worse than the 0-4 start that we're off to. Starting catcher Francisco Alvarez, torn PCL, out for 7 months, so he is out for the year. Making things even more tricky is that he is going to be a free agent after this season. We haven't extended him, but exactly, what he's going to be worth coming off of missing the whole year to a PCL, who knows? Can see he's still looking for close to $18 million a year over 6 years right now. Definitely not willing to give him that today, but a big bummer that Alvarez, our starting catcher, who's good offensively, good defensively, is going to be gone for the season. You may remember that we got rid of Sean Murphy, who has been our starter for a few years and then had taken over as his backup at the end of last season. So we're going to be a little thin at catcher now. Going to have to make a decision who to bring up from AAA. Right now, have Anthony Siegler on the major league roster. He may not even be the starter when all is said and done, but we'll have to take a look at Kerner, who has been with us a while, Ryan Jeffers, and Vladimir Chalo. I think Kerner is kind of the obvious choice. Not quite an average major league hitter, but good, but not great defensively as a catcher. So the two guys who had been kind of long-term catchers in our minor league system, never having gotten a sniff of the majors, Kerner and Siegler, are now our catching duo as we try to prepare to hopefully defend the AL East crown and hopefully make a long playoff run that ends in the World Series. But certainly not off to a great start. We'll have to keep an eye on the trade block over the course of the season to see if there's any interesting catchers that are out there. Right now, nothing particularly interesting with Michael Berglund, Ben Rortvedt, and J.J. Schwartz kind of looking as the top three catchers available. Well, Jason Dominguez is now out for a month with a high ankle sprain, so injuries are hitting us fast and furious, but at least thus far they're not to any arms. So we will look to bring up another bat from the minor leagues to hopefully help out, because with Dominguez gone now, going to have some different people getting playing time in the outfield and at DH most likely. The good news is that move will get Klassen into the lineup as a DH. We wanted to see his bat a little bit against righties. And he's actually also in the lineup as the DH against lefties right now. So we still got to add one player to the major league roster. But it looks like Klassen will be the primary beneficiary of Dominguez's trip to the injured list. Well, 1 month into the season, we're 11-10, so we've bounced back, I guess, a little bit from that really slow start, but 4.5 games behind the Rays. Obviously, for a team that was predicted to lead the league in both runs scored and runs allowed, the start to the season has not been as robust as we would have hoped. But the nice thing about baseball is that it's a long season, so let's see how the month of May goes for these Yankees. Well, the month of May not going incredibly well in that closer Seizo Murakami is headed to the injured list for a couple of months. Shoulder surgery on some scar tissue that he has there, so that will necessitate some changes to the pitching staff. Let's go see who we'd like to bring up from Scranton. Maybe the chance for Tim Wallace, who he's got a 5.40 ERA down in Scranton. Hasn't been lights out, but certainly has some great stuff. I think it's probably time to give Tim Wallace a chance at the major league level. So we will call up Wallace, see what Leas wants the staff to look like. Wallace stepping right into the closer role, so going to be trial by fire for Tim Wallace. stepping in as a closer in his first major league action. Well, we've made it to May 31st. The Yankees are playing better, 26-21 record, and we are tied for first in the AL East with Baltimore. So good that the team, you can see is on a 7-game winning streak, 8-2 in our last 10. So that is really positive. From a negative perspective, we're waiting to hear about a potential injury to Christian Javier. So could be a significant impact if we lose one of our top starters. We'll see what happens there. Luke Wagner just suffered a mild shoulder strain. He's going to be day-to-day for about a week, so the pitching staff is a little bit banged up. Really want to see what happens with Javier. Actually, I may not want to see. Yeah, I don't want to see. So he is out for 7 months. So that is really, 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 really not good. Yeah, one of the top starters, if not the top starters on our team, finishes the year with a 3-0 record, 3.67 ERA, 128 ERA plus, 62 FIP minus. He already had a WAR of 1.7 through just the first third of the season, so he was having a real nice year for us. And we don't quite have the same depth in the starting rotation as we have in previous seasons because we've been focused on trying to cut our payroll. So definitely not optimal to lose a frontline starter, but it is what it is at this point. Let's see if we can bring up somebody from the minors who will be a good replacement for Javier, and then hopefully we can win some games without him. Looking at our starters down in AAA, looks like perhaps Grant Holman and Caden Wallace are two of our better ones down there. Holman is, a very league average looking type of player. Caden Wallace, same thing really. They both look like they are kind of average, acceptable replacement level major league pitchers. Other option would be Evan Godwin, just to bring up a lefty, but you can see he's got a pretty similar profile also. But given the way the pitching staff looks right now, Leis's initial move is to move Alex McFarland in, so we may bring up the lefty just to see how he does. It doesn't have to be a final decision for us, but want to give as much flexibility as possible to Leis, and think that the lefty Goodwin may be the way to do that, although we could go with one of the other lefties if we're not going to need a pitcher. Jack Masloff has just incredible stuff. His control is just a disaster, though. 16 innings pitched in AAA. He's got 13 walks and 23 strikeouts, so might be a little aggressive to bring him up. Tyler Misla, these guys are all pretty similar. They're all pretty interchangeable. We'll bring up Godwin. See what the rotation looks like now. Yeah, Godwin is going to be a middle reliever, so not a shock there. So definitely disappointing to lose Javier, but the team has been playing better. Hopefully we can keep that momentum going and not have any other injuries as the calendar ends up flipping from spring to summer over the next few weeks. Well, some more bad news for the Yankees. Starting second baseman Nick Gonzalez is going to be out with a sprained elbow for 6 weeks. So off to the injured list for Nick, and unfortunately Anthony Volpe is banged up with wrist soreness for a few days. So we are going to bring up Brant Bauckham from Scranton Wilkes-Barre to probably man second base for the next couple of days, and then presumably Volpe will take over once he's feeling a little healthier. But the injuries are definitely adding up at this point, and you can see our player payroll has actually creeped up too. Haven't made any actual transactions other than bringing people up and sending people down, but we'll want to be cognizant of that because we've gone through such a big effort to get that payroll below 190 million. We want to make sure that it really is that last $14,197 doesn't come back to haunt us when we get to the end of the season. Well, this one's really going to hurt. We just lost Lance McCullers Jr. to a fractured elbow for 6 months, so 2 of our top starting pitchers are now gone for the year. That is, potentially crippling. You can see we're 38-30, a game and a half behind now, but the team definitely was not built to handle this. Definitely a big bummer to lose McCullers. We'll take a look at what's going on in AAA and bring up some more reinforcements. Probably time to see what Caden Wallace, looks like a totally average right-handed starter. Grant Holman, really the same thing. Holman has a 5.40 ERA with a 75 ERA plus in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Wallace has been doing better this year, 3.86 ERA. So let Caden Wallace come back up, see what the rotation is going to look like from Scott Leis's perspective. Edwards, Hackinson, Benbrook, Wagner, and McFarland are now the rotation with 2 of our top 3 or 4 starters out. So we'll have to see if there's any trades that we can pull off as we get closer to the trade deadline. But the injuries this season are getting quite difficult for the Yankees. We're at the start of the international amateur free agent period. 2 kind of players really stand out. One is the Italian Gianluigi Definu. You can see potentially really nice batting profile here. Looks like he's going to be an outfielder. High work ethic, low adaptability. Our scout thinks he can be a 3.5-star player. He's almost 18 years old, though, the left-handed hitter. Mario Ruiz, right-handed batter. Also a potentially decent hitting profile. High loyalty, adaptability, work ethic, and intelligence. Personality is going to bust his tail to become better, and he's also barely 16 years old, and his injury proneness is durable. So although right now our scout does not think his potential is quite as high, we're going to go with the guy who's a year and a half younger. Also has really good speed and the durability as far as potential injuries. So we are going to offer him the full $5 million. He says he'd love to come play for us. Won't be the first time that someone's lied to us if he says that and doesn't sign with us, but we are going to meet his demand, submit the offer, and hopefully get Mario Ruiz signed to the Yankees minor league system. And Mario lied to us. He prefers the $5 million a year offer from the White Sox. So we tried to maybe outthink ourselves. Didn't go with the number 1 prospect who signed with Atlanta, but now Ruiz is. Well, it looks like we can still try to. No, we can't offer him. Yeah, we're not going to be able to beat that max offer. So that's a little bit of a bummer. We'll see if Andino, Kalunga, Hutchins, or Ortiz is worth pursuing for $5 million and make a decision on them. But a little bit of a bummer to miss out on the player who we thought had the most potential of the group. Well, we're at the midway point in the season. You can see we're 42-37, 5 games out. The injuries we've suffered definitely aren't helping. Ownership, not pleased with our record. Agree that we're not looking like a top team right now. They are actually reasonably pleased with what Mountcastle has done, so that's been a decent signing for us. And then they're pleased that payroll is down, and they want us to cut it that tiny bit more to get it back under 190 million. So we may have to make a small move as we get closer to the trade deadline to ensure that we can do that. But Also, as we get closer to the trade deadline, we've just got to figure out whether we are going to be buyers or sellers. Right now we're 5 games out in the East. We're only half a game out for the wild card, so I think we have to try to make a run at it this year. But it's definitely not going as smoothly as we had hoped, and certainly not as smoothly as was predicted in the preseason for this team. The injury situation really not getting any better. We just had news that Nick Gonzalez suffered a setback to his sprained elbow, who was originally only supposed to be out about, I think, a month, and now he's still out a month or so. Alvarez, maybe gets back for a little bit of the playoffs. And then McCullers and Javi are both clearly gone for the year. Murakami was doing a rehab assignment in Scranton, and now he's out with back stiffness down there, but hopefully he'll be able to rejoin the bullpen soon. In his absence, Tim Wallace has actually done a really good job with a 2.11 ERA, 3-1 record with 9 saves for the rookie. So he has not been our problem. But we are banged up and we are not playing well, so we will see what happens in the coming weeks. But definitely want to try to remain as competitive as possible, but we also want to make sure we're so close to being under that payroll goal that we absolutely need to achieve that, especially now that the on-the-field record for us may not be as good as we had hoped this year. And I'm starting to think it's just not going to be the Yankees season. Carter Benbrook, another starting pitcher, torn biceps, out for 3 months. You can see he wasn't having a great year, 6-6 record, but a 5.53 ERA. But the injuries are getting to be crippling at this point. Fortunately, Murakami has pitched a couple games in Scranton and is healthy now after getting a little banged up. So we will just move him back to the major league team. But our starting rotation is definitely getting very thin at this point. You can see the starters up there. If I was able to show you their pitcher ratings, you would see this better. But Hackinson with only a 35 stamina, but Garrett Edwards and Hackinson, are good major league starters. McFarland, Wagner, and Caden Wallace, who we just brought up from Scranton Wilkes-Barre, are more replacement level type pitchers. So not what you would expect with a $190 million payroll as the New York Yankees, but it is what it is at this point, and we are going to try to fight through it and figure out what we need to do to get the ship righted and get into the playoffs this season. If we can get into the playoffs, you never know what can happen once you're there. We've been a favorite a lot of the last few years and haven't really done much. So, and right now we're half a game up on the Twins for the wild card. So we're going to keep fighting. Well, we are closing in on the trade deadline. You can see we're 6.5 games out of first place in the AL East, and we are tied for the wild card with the Twins right now. We're probably not going to win it all this year. We may not even make the playoffs this year. We've got to get this last $1 million off the payroll to get under $190 million and just have ownership take the leash off of us for next year and let us spend. And looking at our roster, I thought that Bogarts in his final year with us, we're not going to re-sign him, would be a great option to let go of, and then we could bring up Montoya to play third base for us and give one of the top prospects in the game an opportunity. But he has got 10-5 rights. He's been with us long enough to have those, and he will not go anywhere. So kind of the only other option we have is trading away our great catcher, Francisco Alvarez, who's out for the season. He's going to be a free agent. He's looking for $17.5 million over 2 years. He previously was looking for about that amount over 6 years. So the injury has taken his expectations down. But there's also a lot of people who are really interested in trading for him. A lot of interesting offers for him, and I don't know if these teams just want to have the ability to, re-sign him. Presumably, that's what it is. One offer that's interesting with all of the pitching issues that we're having is Josh Hartl, who's a reliever, a lefty reliever from the Astros. You can see he's got a pretty nice profile for a reliever. The issue is he's been starting this year for them, and he's been just brutal. He's 3-9 with a 6.98 ERA. But he's a lefty arm, which we could use. He's making the minimum this year. Not yet eligible for arbitration. Still has option years left. I don't want to get rid of Alvarez, but we might not even make the playoffs this year. And we've got to get the payroll under 190 million by the end of this year, because I think if we do that, then management will just let us spend like crazy next year. And if Alvarez somehow makes it to free agency, we sign him there. If not, we do what we have to do to upgrade at catcher over the offseason. But he's not doing anything for us right now. This gets us under 190 million for this year. Gives us a better chance to compete this year potentially with Hartl. It's, I think we got to do it. It's not a trade that I would ever think of doing otherwise, because we had made the big trade for Alvarez a couple years back. He was supposed to be our catcher for the foreseeable future, but right now he can't help us, and we need help right now to hopefully make the playoffs and then also get our salary down, and we just don't have a lot of good options to do that. So I think that's the way we're going to go. All right, well, we've negotiated with the Astros. We are going to send them Alvarez and starter from the minors, Alex Sarmiento, decent prospect, for Hartl, and a different type of decent prospect, reliever TJ Saratelli, back from them. They're also going to take on all of Hartl's contract, which is only the major league minimum, so not a big deal, but this should get us under the salary cap or the budget goal of 190 million. Give us another arm to use this season who could potentially start from us, although I think I'd prefer to see him in the bullpen, but gives us a chance to hopefully still make a run at the playoffs, while also hopefully getting our salary down under the 190 million that ownership wants us to. So we are going to complete that trade. Fans are not upset that we traded away Alvarez. Hey, I'm not really either. But they actually are excited that we brought on Hartl, so it all evens out in the end. I think we still got 100% fan interest, and our payroll, we're now well below the 190 million that we needed to be. So I think it was a move we needed to make. We are past the trade deadline into August, 5.5 games out of first in the AL East, and we own the second wild card by a win over the Twins right now. It looks like Scott Leyes has slotted Hartl right into our rotation, so he's been such a disaster with Houston in the rotation. I'm a little scared to see what he does with us, but we needed to do something, so we'll give him a shot. At least he's a lefty arm in Yankee Stadium. Maybe that will mean something here as we get into the dog days of August. And of course, just a week after the trade deadline, after he wouldn't let us trade him, Bogart's out with a torn hamstring for the next 3 to 4 weeks, so he will be headed to the injured list. Going to need to find a third baseman down in the minors. Good news is that I think it may be time for Jose Montoya to make his major league debut. You can see he looks like he'll be a plus defensive third baseman. Still would like him to get a little more seasoning as far as his bat, but he's the 17th prospect in baseball. The only other third baseman we have down there, Becker could play third, but he's not really much of a hitter yet. Lucas Kelly's been playing third down there, but best case scenario, he's a close to average major league hitter. I think at this point we go with the player who's definitely going to be better defensive, who hopefully will continue to develop at the major league level. So the pressure is going to be coming on Jose Montoya, the 23-year-old who is the number 17 prospect in baseball, was a scouting discovery of ours almost 7 years ago to the day when he was just a 16-year-old. Going to be making his major league debut here to take over for Bogaerts. Hopefully becomes our third baseman at least for the next few weeks, and as I talked about with the trade of Ke'Bryan Hayes, definitely potential for Montoya to become our full-time third baseman. And right now he's got Gonzalez playing third. No, come on, you can't do that. And Montoya playing second. Montoya is a little better as a second baseman than Gonzalez is, but he's not trained as well there, but he's got better. Well, I guess I got to go with what the manager says. But at least he's going to get some playing time there, swapping Gonzalez to third base right as he's coming off the injured list. Hopefully that doesn't result in a major issue for us. But Bogaerts on the DL. Yankees 58-45 at this point. Still 5 behind Baltimore, 2 up on Tampa, and 3 up on the Twins for the wild card. So hopefully, at the very least, we can make a push and end up in the playoffs. Well, we've made it to the month of September, 74-53 record, but 5 games behind Baltimore, who's having a really strong season. We are 9-1 in our last 10, and we are up by 3.5 games on the Tigers for the wild card. So, hopefully we can get into the postseason, and then if we can do that, you never know what can happen. 11th in the league in player payroll. After trading away our catcher, we'll certainly at least meet that goal with management. But the real goal would be to, go on a nice long run in the playoffs, which I just don't know if we've got it in us this year. Looking at the injury list as we near the end of the season, down to just 3 players at the major league level. The problem is that they are 3 of our best 4 starting pitchers, and McCullers Jr. and Javier both still gone for 4 months. Carter Benbrook 4 weeks away from potentially returning from that torn bicep, so certainly not going to help us in the push for the playoffs. Best case scenario is maybe he gets 1 game at the end of September, early October, and then can potentially be with us for the playoffs. But we'll see how the next few weeks go as to whether Benbrook's season is over or whether he might get to pitch a game or 2 with us in October this year. Well, we're now at September 17th, about 3 weeks left in the regular season. We just got swept by the Orioles in a 3-game series, so we are 8 games out for the division. AL East was always, going to be tough. Especially after we lost the pitching, particularly after we lost the pitching. We were favorites in the AL East at the beginning of this year, so let's not lie about it. But we're up 5 on Detroit for the wild card, so at the very least, hopefully we get a 1-game shot to see if we can move on to the ALDS. Well, we've simmed ahead another week. The Yankees have won 5 in a row, still 8 behind Baltimore, who has clinched a playoff spot, and we are 7 in front of Detroit for the wild card. So feeling pretty good at this point that we should be getting into the playoffs at the very least. And once we get there, we got a fighter's chance. Well, if we weren't sure whether it was our year or not, probably a good sign that it's not, even though we most likely will be in the playoffs. On the day that Benbrook comes back from his long injury and can start a rehab assignment, get the news that Cody Bellinger is out for 5 weeks with shoulder tendonitis. So his season is over. 38 homers, 91 runs batted in, but just a 237 average, 126 OPS plus, 5.7 WAR. So a nice solid season for our center fielder, but definitely just another big blow that we didn't need as we get close to the season ending. You can see it's Friday the 28th of September. We're 90 and 64. We are 8 games behind Baltimore. Their magic number is down to 1. But we are up 9 games on the Tigers, so we have clinched the wild card. We still have a chance of getting ahead of the Angels to be able to host the wild card, although we're 2 games behind them. The only way we're going to catch Baltimore is if we go undefeated and they lose every game. So we are in the playoffs, but the loss of Bellinger certainly is not going to help how long we're able to stick around. Well, we made it to the end of the season in October. You can see didn't finish well. Lost to the division champions Baltimore 10-3 yesterday. Finished 11 games behind Baltimore in a division that we were big favorites in at the beginning of the season. Definitely a disappointing result. That being said, we did get a wild card spot. We were free by 7 games over Detroit. So we're going to get 1 game against the Angels to hopefully get to move on, and looks like we will likely be facing the top-seeded Orioles with 104 wins versus 103 for Texas if we are able to be successful. So we will call this a wrap. I don't know that the next episode will be long. It can only be 1 game possibly when we get through the playoffs, but we're going to remain optimistic and hope that it'll be a long playoff run. Regardless, we'll talk about the playoffs, whether it ends up being 1 game or several series, and then do a review of how the team performed over the course of this 2029 season in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great day.